What's up, YouTube? I'm here to do my predictions for UFC 267. Let's start at the bottom. The first fight is Tigr Ulanbov versus Alan. I can't say his last name. I think Tigr is just way better everywhere. I think he's the better striker, better wrestler. I think Alan has some good jiu-jitsu, but that's about it. If Alan can't catch him in something, I think Tigr is just going to beat him up for 3 straight rounds and win a dominant decision. Next is Hugh Yang Zong versus Andre Petrovsky. I think Andre's just too strong of a wrestler. I think he was basically just an okay striker with okay wrestling. I think Andre will be able to take him down, beat him up, and get a finish on the ground with either TKO or submission. Next is Makwan Amirkhani versus Lerone Murphy. To me, this is the real test for Lerone because this is the first real wrestler he's fought. Most of the guys he's fought so far are just like strikers, and he's been able to just out kickbox them. I want to see how good he does against Makwan before I feel like I have a ton of faith in him. He's definitely the better striker, but I think Makwan's the much better grappler. And because I'm leaning towards Makwan, I think if Makwan can get him down early, I think he might be able to submit him. But like I said, if Ramon can really stop Makwan's wrestling and jiu-jitsu, I think that'll be when I think he's a really, really top prospect. But until that happens, I'm going to lean towards Makwan to win by submission. Next is Michael, I can't say his last name, versus Shamil Gazmat. To me, Shamil, I think he is the better overall fighter. My biggest fear is he was a middleweight for a long time, and his one fight at light heavyweight in the UFC, he barely beat a guy that, in my opinion, is just kind of okay. I think that was a lot to do with size. I think he likes to mix up striking and grappling, and I think against bigger guys, he has a hard time using the grappling. He has some solid overall striking, but I wouldn't say he's the most technical striker. I think Michael's the better overall striker, and this is the thing. If it's on the ground, Shamil will be able to submit him, but Michael has good takedown defense. He's just not the greatest once it's actually on the ground. To me, this fight's a coin flip because Michael's also been active, as where Shamil hasn't. But I'm going to lean towards Shamil. I do think if he can get this to the ground, he can win by submission, but we're going to see, because I do think he's a middleweight fighting at light heavyweight. Maybe he's gotten bigger because it's been about 2 years since he last fought. But until then, I will pick Shamil, like I said. I just think the ground advantage is too big, but I won't be shocked if Michael just outpoints him and wins a solid decision. Next is Eloise Dos Santos versus Benoit St. Denis. To me, Benoit is a really good jiu-jitsu guy, but I think Dos Santos is too good with his takedown defense. I also think Dos Santos is the significantly better striker. I think that, if Benoit can't get this to the ground, I think Santos is just going to light him up and knock him out, and I think that's what's really going to happen. I think Santos, I thought he won his last fight against the Russian kickboxer guy, but I think he's going to stuff the takedowns and eventually catch Dennis and win by KO. Next, we got Albert Duvin versus Roman Kopylov. To me, I think Albert's the much better grappler in this fight. He's not the greatest striker, but he's got such good wrestling and such good submissions. Roman is really just a big puncher, and that's pretty much what I see in this fight. I think he has a puncher's chance. I think he can catch Albert, but realistically, I think Albert just takes him to the ground over and over again and eventually wins by submission. Next is Ricardo Ramos versus Zugbar Tumagov. To me, I think Zigbar's biggest weakness is that he tends to get really tired the longer the fight goes. He's a solid striker. He's probably the better striker of the two, but I think Ramos has better conditioning and is better on the ground overall. Like I said, if Zigbar can't, keep this on the feet and just outpoint Ramos for the majority of the fight, I think eventually he gets taken down and submitted. And I just think that's the more likely scenario. I think eventually Ramos tires out Zubar, and then once he takes him down, he submits him. So I'm going to pick Ricardo Ramos to win by third round sub. Next is Amanda Hebos versus Vivian Araujo. I think that Amanda's is the better overall fighter. I think her striking and overall jiu-jitsu is a little bit better. Vivian's also really good on the ground, and her striking's also been getting a lot better, but I just think at this point, Hebos is just higher level at this point, so I'm going to pick Hebos to win by decision. On to the main card, the first fight is Magomed Ankalaev versus Volkan Ozdemir, and this is the thing. I think in a 3-round fight, this fight's a lot closer than people are giving it credit for. I think if it was 5, Ankalaev would win all day. He's definitely got the much better cardio. But I think in terms of overall striking, these guys aren't that far apart. Like I said, the biggest thing Ankalaev has is he's a bit more precise, and his cardio is better. But in a 3-round fight, I don't think it's going to matter that much. Ozdemir's cardio doesn't usually fade as bad in 3-round fights. It's usually towards the 3rd round when he starts to get tired. The first 2 rounds, he's usually solid. It's like towards the middle of the third is when we usually start to see Ozdemir slow down. So to me, it's just those first 2 rounds, because as long as Ozdemir can just fight technically and smart, I think it can go either way. I am still picking Ankalaev. I like his power and his technique more, but I'm just saying, don't be shocked if Ozdemir can pull off a 29-28, close decision win. I do think this is 2 really good kickboxers going at it, and like I said, I think Ankalaev's a little bit better, and that's why I'm picking him, but I won't be shocked if Ozdemir wins a really close decision, like when he beat the guy who's ranked like 3 or 4. I'm blanking on his name. Next is Li Jingliang versus Khamzat Chimaev, and this fight's really weird because those weigh-ins, man, if you watch those weigh-ins, Khamzat was really fucking leaning on that towel, man. Like, he's clearly a middleweight. Like, I know he can make 170, but it seems like he has to, like, murder himself to get to the weight. I think he just needs to go back to middleweight. Like, his first 3 fights are at middleweight. So, I mean, that's all I'm saying. It's like, he's not super small at middleweight either. He looked about as big as Gerald when they fought. Either way, though, he made weight. And I think he wins this fight. I think he's just the significantly better wrestler. I think Lee has some okay wrestling. He's definitely the better striker of the 2, as far as I can tell as of right now. I don't know how great Khamzat's striking is, but I'm going to assume Lee is better at this point just because I've seen more of it. But I think the wrestling is clearly hugely in Khamzat's favor, and I think that the overall grappling is in his favor. I think Khamzat will continuously take Lee down and eventually win by like rear naked choke. Next, we got Alexander Volkov versus Marcin Tybura, and to me, I think the biggest thing is if Volkov can stuff the takedowns, I think eventually he's going to knock out Tybura. I think on the feet, Tybura's not a bad striker, but he's more volume than anything. I think Volkov is the much better striker overall, and he throws high volume too. So there's not much that Marcin offers Volkov on the feet. Like, they're both heavyweights, and Marcin could always catch him, but I just don't see that. He's not really a one-shot knockout guy. Like, with head kicks, yes, but like his overall punching game and stuff like that, he's more volume than anything. Volkov's the same, but Volkov, at least when he hits guys with that volume, they tend to slowly go down. I think he has more power, even though he is a volume guy himself. I just think that his hits will do more damage in the long run. And like I said, other than Tybura just continuously taking Volkov down, which I don't know if he'll be able to do. I think Volkov's the bigger guy, and he's been working a lot on his takedown defense. I think Volkov keeps on the feet, and I think come late second, mid-third, Volkov's damage is going to add up, and I think he's going to win by TKO. Next, we got Islam Makhachev versus Dan Hooker, and I know Islam's most likely going to win this fight, but I don't know why. I just feel like Dan Hooker might catch him. I feel like Islam, his striking's getting better, but I do think he kind of leaves himself open a little bit, and I think Dan could catch him. Realistically, I think Chimaev just takes him down and out-grapples him for 3 rounds, but I just have this weird feeling Dan's going to catch him with a counter shot. And like I said, you should not bet on Dan Hooker. This is just a weird feeling I have. I know I'm probably going to get this wrong, but I'm leaning towards Hooker because I do think, like I said, I just think Chimaev leaves opens when he strikes, and I think Hooker's going to catch him with a counter shot. Next is... So I'm picking Dan Hooker win by KO. Next is Peter Yan versus Corey Sandhagen, and this is the thing. I think Peter Yan is just the better pressure fighter. I think he's got the stronger wrestling. I think striking-wise, they're pretty even. Corey's definitely lighter on his feet. He's better with his overall submissions, but I think Peter is just the better cardio fighter. They both have amazing cardio, but I mean more so in the sense that he's the one who's going to be pushing forward and going for takedowns and stuff like that, like TJ did. And I think that that's what's going to edge out the rounds in his favor, just like when Corey fought TJ. I think Peter will be able to hit takedowns and push him against the fence and just land more in the clinch and stuff like that. And just the close rounds, he's going to edge him out. And I think that he'll either win a 48-47 decision across the board or better. Like I said, I just think his wrestling and forward pressure is going to edge out the close rounds because the striking and everything else is pretty much close or even. But yeah, I'm going to lean towards Peter to win by decision. Finally, we got Jan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira, and this fight really depends on, I feel like the early rounds is really going to decide this fight, because I do think Glover has the better conditioning. I think in that last fight, Jan kind of showed against Izzy that he does slow as the rounds go on. Like, his cardio has never been amazing, and a lot of what won him that fight was just him being the bigger, stronger wrestler. Like, he clearly won. I'm just saying, against someone like Glover, who's a lot better on the ground and is a natural light heavyweight, and who prefers to fight on the ground because he can scramble and stuff like that. I think that if Glover can kind of get through the first 2 rounds and just make those first 2 rounds grindy, I think that the longer this goes, the more it's going to favor Glover. I think, Jan should be the favorite. I do think he's the better striker. He definitely hits harder. And in those first 2 rounds especially, I think that there's a huge chance that he could knock out Glover. But, like I said, I just think as long as Glover uses his grappling, and even if he isn't getting takedowns, just force it against the fence, slow down the fight as much as possible, and just make it as grindy as possible, I think he can win this fight. And I think that his grappling is better than Jan's. I think that Jan is just really good on top, but on the bottom, he's kind of more defensive. And the more Glover can force this into a grappling fight and a cardio fight, I think the better chance he has to win. And that can happen. Jan can be pushed against the fence very easily. A lot of fights, I don't know why people haven't noticed this, he gets pushed against the fence really easily. And I think that if people use that tactic a lot more against him, they'd be able to beat him. And I think Glover, hopefully he does that. And I'm going to pick Glover to win by sub. I know that Jan is probably going to win, but I'm going to say Glover gets a 4th or 5th round submission. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.